This is one of the closest things to a perfect post that I've seen on Instagram.
1, 2, 3, 4.
I know you're going to look at it like, man, what's so special about that? Anybody can do it. This is what goes through my mind when I scroll. It's a signal perspective, juxtaposition. It's multi-sensory visual identities, rhythm, cadence. So you've heard me say before about making music visual, making what's visual audible and making what's audible visual. So this is an example of how to make music visual. So they're talking about cadence and rhythm. And like I say, all art is the same. If you look at the words they use, so they're using language to explain audio. They use syllables to explain cadence and rhythm because syllables, that's what rhythm is. That's what cadence is in language. Look at the words that they use. They use food. Every food has a color. So every single word is visual. You know what it looks like when you read it. The reason that's important is because when it's visual, it stays in your memory longer. It's much easier to recall in your memory when it's visual. Also, because they're using food, every word has a taste. So it's multi-sensory. What do we know about multi-sensory? Multi-sensory data stays in your mind longer. It's easier to recall. Watermelon has a color. It's a fruit that you're familiar with, and you know what it tastes like. Guess what it also has? A shape. You're also in your brain associating the shape of the food with the rhythm, with the note. So they're using auditory, of course, because you hear the metronome.
1, 2, 3.
You hear the click. They're using shapes. They're using colors. They're using food that you're familiar with. They're using taste. And what else do you use when you use food? You use smell. So you pretty much have all the senses being used. It's not just transferring rhythm to syllables, audio to syllables to language, but that's not it. That's not the only thing they use. They use contrast. Contrast is the first thing our eyes can see, differentiates what I would consider maybe pure contrast, black and white, the most extreme contrast. That's another trick to get our attention, to get us to stop the scroll. What else do they use? They use a real person in the video. It makes it more human. They use another trick, which is perspective, juxtaposition. You see the big hand and then you see the man, the much smaller man. It makes us pay attention right away. They use objects. There's an object in the person's hand. Objects are signals. They're talking about rhythm. So he uses a drumstick as an object. The big hand is using a pen to point out the words. All this information can be pulled out of this one short video. All these things are reasons why people stop the scroll, why people watch, and why people remember. So the challenge is to look at your own content and think about how many things you can pull from your own content. Do you have juxtaposition, perspective? Do you have a real person in the video? Do you have words with visual identities? Do you have multi-sensory data? The concept is simple. It's just not easy.
One day, I'm gonna be so rich when people come to my house, they're gonna have to step into a van with no windows and put a black bag tied around their head.
This content I noticed on a page called Little Bubby Child. He has a bunch of videos and a bunch of memes, really popular channel. It really brings you into a world maybe that I wasn't familiar with. Like it feels really authentic and just really great content, great writing, and great animation.
Right in my compound, like where these guys like standing there like Mac 10s, boys just watching.
So this is the thing about signaling, right? We talk about signaling often. They could have put any type of clothing on him, but they wanted to create a certain type of character. Somebody that felt like he would say this. He would have these type of aspirations. It just feels really authentic. He has the chain on. His shirt says GOAT, but he's smoking a cigarette early in the morning, sitting outside. So he has lofty goals, but it seems that he has no ambition. They illustrate this well. They use McDonald's in the background, signaling, something we're all familiar with. They use the white van, signaling, something we're all familiar with. I don't know if you're from where I'm from. A lot of times as kids, we thought about the white van. We would hear rumors about the white van snatching up kids and that whole thing. It's amazing storytelling, and the signals in it are so strong. When you think about the black bag tied around her head and taking her to a place where you have armed guards, it reminded me right away of Ozark, the show on Netflix, and it had similar type of scenes. But it's not the only show that has those type of scenes. This is a reoccurring theme in a lot of films.
Buddy, that right there will be the life, son.
So he says that will be the life, and then at the very end, it's a reveal of who he's talking to.
Buddy, that right there will be the life, son.
During the first part of the content, it feels like he's talking to the audience, but he's really not. He's talking to the person next to him that they reveal later. That's a technique that they use in cinema, especially comedies.
Well, keep your grades up.
That's the funniest part to me of the whole thing, is that he says, keep your grades up. But not only that, visually, you see the book. When you read the front of the book, that adds all the humor you need to that one small piece. He tells him to keep his grades up, and it's like he's smoking a cigarette before school in the morning. I don't know, that seems kind of crazy. Visually, the book just adds so much to the humor. A lot of people would have made similar type of content. They would have never put words on his shirt. They would have never put words on the book and reveal the book as part of the story. It doesn't have to be said. It doesn't have to be part of the dialogue. A lot of times what we end up doing is putting a lot in the dialogue because we want people to know the information. We don't think about them reading the screen, but a lot of times it ends up being better for them to read the screen. It's like the art of discovery. It's something they found on their own. Be sensitive enough to recognize everything in the art or the content that you look at or that you ingest. All the little things, because once you start recognizing those things, then you start adding it to your own creativity. It becomes tools.
Ludacris kept throwing CDs over my gate at my house.
When Jermaine Dupri said that Ludacris was throwing music over his gate, that is lesson number one. This is what we call costly signaling. The concept of costly signaling is that it costs the person who's sending the signal. If I DM Jermaine Dupri right now on his Instagram, he will not respond to it. Anyone can DM Jermaine Dupri. But if I sent a handwritten letter to his house through his mail, he would probably open it. And the reason is because I had to write the letter, I had to get a stamp, and I had to send it. And that separates me from anyone who's sending a DM because most people won't go through what it takes to send a letter. So Ludacris found out where Jermaine Dupri lived. He threw music over his fence into his yard.
The first John Madden that had music, they said they wanted somebody more theatrical, somebody that had like a big voice. Then I was listening to the radio and he had a big voice. I put him on the John Madden before he was even out as an artist.
Another lesson I learned from this piece of an interview, Ludacris worked for the radio station. His goal all along, he always wanted to be an artist. First, you have to know your talent. Ludacris's talent is his voice. So going to the radio station and getting a job on the radio, talking on the radio, was somewhat natural for someone like him that has such a strong voice. That position of getting a job with the radio station ends up being his entry into the music industry. As Jermaine Dupri said, he heard him on the radio, he needed his voice, and he sought after Ludacris. It starts with throwing stuff over the fence. That's attention. Then I hear you on the radio. That's trust. Then I reach out to you to do the record. That's the sell. Top of the funnel, you get attention. Middle, you build trust. And the bottom of the funnel is when you sell.
I took Ludacris music to my office and I'm gonna let my employees work today. And I played Ludacris music and everybody was like, nah. And I was like, nah, JD, don't sign him. He ain't gonna work. What I learned from that is that I can't never go against my gut. I had already used him. You know what I mean? I put him on the biggest platform he had ever been on. It didn't make no sense for me to ask them anyway. I just looked at it like that was just my dumb mistake. I'm trying to be a businessman.
If you want to support the channel, there's a donation link at the top of the description, and there's a donation link in the comment section pinned to the top. Remember, I can make you look, but I can't make you see. Seeing is a choice. I'm Brian from The King's Hand.